Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start this video with a story about a boss so obsessed with rules. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. You must wear black footwear. Okay, if you insist. When I was younger, I worked in an office for a printing company. My boss was notorious for his strict adherence to company policies, particularly when it came to dress code. One day, he made an announcement that all employees must wear black footwear with no exceptions. This rule caught my attention, and I decided to have some fun at my boss's expense because he really was an awful micromanaging boss. You could never do anything right. So the next day, I walked into the office wearing black flippers. You know, diving flippers instead of traditional black shoes, which is clearly how black footwear is meant to have been interpreted. As I made my way down the hallways, all my colleagues couldn't help but burst into laughter. The sight of a professional employee strutting around in flippers was too amusing to resist. Word quickly spread, and soon everyone was giggling and peeking out of their cubicle to catch a glimpse of my act of defiance. When the boss caught sight of my unconventional footwear, his face turned bright red with anger. He stormed over, veins pulsating on his forehead and everything, ready to shout. However, before he got a chance to say anything, I pointed out that I was indeed following his policy of wearing black footwear. I think he was close to completely losing it because he stormed off into his office grunting like a warthog. Technically, I had complied with his instructions and there was no explicit mention of traditional footwear in the policy. He couldn't take any disciplinary action without seeming unfair. My colleagues found the situation even more hilarious at this point. I got many compliments for outsmarting our strict boss. From that day forward, the story became legendary in the office, sparked a newfound sense of rebellion with employees pushing the boundaries of the dress code in hilarious and imaginative ways. Some wore black sneakers with flashing LED lights, while others donned black high-heeled slippers. The office became a more vibrant and joyful place, with employees embracing their individuality while technically adhering to his directives. The absurdity of the situation left him fuming, but he didn't want to look stupid by changing his policy again so quickly. It's safe to say we didn't see him in the main office much after that day. In the end, I hope he learned an invaluable lesson about the importance of specifics and clarity, while also learning that people can have fun while working to create a better morale and improve the workplace. But a week later, he was gone. He was replaced by a lovely lady that found this whole situation very funny and complimented us all on how good the morale was here. Managers who are bad at doing their job come up with all kinds of ludicrous codes just so they could look somewhat useful in reports. And our second story. When you're too good at your job and everyone makes it your job. I work for a parcel delivery company, and my job involves fixing parcels with label problems, giving parcels to customers at our hubs, finding phone numbers and emails for delivery, and so on. However, I'm not exactly in customer service. The only calls I take are from people who have problems with labels. I don't handle late pickups or drivers failing to deliver parcels correctly. Now, my coworkers should know what I do, but sometimes it seems either they don't understand or they just ignore it. I've had a few experiences that really highlight this. One, I was working one day when I got a call from a customer service rep at a different hub. We have about 8 hubs in the country. I picked up the phone thinking it was about a label issue, but instead I got an angry man complaining about how his parcels hadn't been picked up yet. I told him that I was sorry, but that wasn't my department. He didn't care and demanded that I get the driver to come pick up his parcels. I told him again that I couldn't help, as I didn't even know who was picking up parcels in his area. He asked me to transfer him to someone who could help. The problem was our phone system's 100% computer-based, and I wasn't trained on how to transfer calls. My company isn't very good about teaching us how to use the new tech, even though we use it every day. I told him I couldn't transfer him and asked him to please call the main number again. He eventually did. I wrote an email to the customer service rep explaining that I couldn't help with parcel pickups and thought that was the end of it. But no, she continued to forward these calls to me every day for the next week. It wasn't until I involved my supervisor that it stopped. 2. One day I had a customer service rep at my hub call me and tell me there was a guy on the phone that I needed to talk to. Thinking it was about a label problem, I said sure, and she forwarded him to me. What I got was a guy whose parcel hadn't been delivered for a few days. The driver had apparently been unable to deliver it because the guy wasn't home and couldn't get into the building. The man was furious, demanding an explanation and asking for an express delivery, which I can't authorize, calling the company useless. I explained that I didn't know why his parcel hadn't been delivered and that I wasn't in customer service. He then snapped. "Then why in the hell am I talking to you then?" I just thought, ask my coworker who forwarded you to me. I told him I'd look into it as best I could and would get the parcel out for delivery on the next weekday. This was a Friday, so it would be delivered on Monday. He got quiet and breathed heavily, and I could tell he was about to explode. Eventually, he calmed down, apologized for the inconvenience, and hung up. I called the customer service rep and asked her why she forwarded this call to me. She replied, "Well, I figured you could explain this to him better." I told my supervisor, and he talked to her afterwards, so I thought that was the end of it. Wrong. Later, I was on the phone with another customer when I got an email from the same customer service rep with a phone number and a simple "call, thanks." I replied, why? But didn't get an answer. Thinking it had to do with a label problem, I made the mistake of calling the number. What I got was an older lady who was furious about not receiving her parcel a few days earlier and upset that she hadn't been notified that we'd been at the address. I told her I'd try to find a phone number for her, and she called me a liar. She wasn't the receiver of their parcel, her husband was, and I couldn't find a number for him. Turned into another 10 minutes of me, despite it not being my job, trying to explain our policies and how I couldn't authorize express delivery. Everything I said just made her more angry, and she chewed me out even more. I told her I would make some calls and see what I could do, and she finally hung up. I went to my supervisor and asked him for the number of the transport manager. Supervisor: "Why do you need his number?" Me: "Customer service asked me to call someone who wanted a parcel delivered express due to an apparent mistake from the driver." Supervisor: "Wait, that's not your job. You're not supposed to call people about stuff like that. That's customer service's job." Me: "I know, but they asked me to call and didn't explain what it was about, so I thought it was a label issue." Supervisor: "Who asked you to call that number?" Me: Tells supervisor the name of the customer service rep. Supervisor: "Again?" Me: "Yep." Supervisor: "I'll go talk to her." And the reason she wanted me to call the lady, I didn't feel like I was getting through to her, and I felt you were much better at getting through to her. I hate my job sometimes. And our next story. You want to cut people in lines? Okay. This didn't happen to me directly or personally, but I was the one able to dish out the revenge. I work for a company that builds and loans out ATM machines to banks. I go around doing general maintenance and service to ATM within my entire state. I won't lie, it kind of gives me a rush knowing I have the power to open and close ATM lines, but I make sure to only use it when I need it. This was a moment I used my powers for a little revenge. What happened was I was at an ATM building where it was just 2 ATM lines in this location and the actual bank a few blocks down. I'd already showed up for the ATM on the outer line. Think someone got money jammed and I had to reset it a few times because it was being dumb. As I was waiting for a reset to finish, I noticed a line was forming in the ATM next to mine and looked back to the farthest person. A lady was hanging back in her minivan because she wasn't sure which ATM would open first, mine, the one still in service, or the other one where a guy was taking a bit too long and another car was still behind him. She kept a single car's length between her and the other ATM just for this reason. Cue rushing lady. This lady swerved in and got between this lady, and I mean in Tokyo Drift fashion. It was damn near impressive how she didn't hit any cars in her small dark gray Honda. She was also much older than the lady in the minivan. She was also wearing sunglasses on a very cloudy day. Like a day you knew it was going to rain that night. Anyway, the minivan lady started honking at her, being so impolite because this lady took a spot in line. Something about this lady didn't sit right with me. It mainly her face, which reminded me of an entitled Karen that I got into an accident with a few years ago when I lived in a different state. So since I'm working on the ATM next to her, I decided to get a little justice for this. Normally, my truck is enough to deter people from using my lane for the ATM, but I can traffic cones to help deter if people weren't getting the idea. I walked to the back of my truck enough to where the old lady couldn't see my face. I gave the minivan lady a finger to the lips gesture as I pulled out both traffic cones and set them right in front of the old lady's car before she even got close enough to the ATM to use it. She got all fussy and tried to bargain with me. I didn't have any of it and told her I need to fix this one because I was finished with the ATM next door. She gave up and backed out to leave. Once the coast was clear, I put the cones back into my van and nodded at the minivan lady. The minivan lady thanked me and told me to say hi if I ever stopped by her Target. I can't because I was in a different county to her and it was about an hour away from home normally. And our last story. When life gives you Karen, become her landlord. My wife and I were in our early 30s, just starting to feel like we were getting our life on track. After saving up for years, we were renting half of a duplex in a beautiful neighborhood. We had big dreams of one day owning our own house, but for the time being, this little duplex was our home. Little did we know we'd soon be tangled in a never-ending web of drama, thanks to the neighbor from hell, Karen. At first, things seemed fine. We settled in, got comfortable, and started living our lives, but then came Karen. She was the definition of a nightmare neighbor. At first, it was little things. She'd steal our Amazon packages, and we'd find out our electricity usage was mysteriously high. When we confronted her about it, she denied it, of course. The real chaos started when our baby would cry. She called the police on us, claiming we were being neglectful. It was ridiculous. Karen's obsession with complaining didn't stop there. Every time we so much as breathed, she had something to say about it. She called the landlord, a really cool guy, by the way, every time she thought we violated some imaginary rule, like the time we had guests over for a barbecue or played music too loud. The complaints were non-stop, and they were starting to wear on all of us. Fast forward a few months, and the landlord, fed up with dealing with Karen's constant barrage of calls, approached us with an offer. He was looking to sell the duplex and was tired of Karen's constant complaints. He knew we were good tenants and that we had made the place our home, so he gave us the first opportunity to buy it. We didn't hesitate for a second. The idea of getting rid of Karen and finally having some peace in our own home was too good to pass up. Without needing a realtor, we quickly negotiated the deal and had everything finalized in just under 2 weeks. We were now the proud owners of the entire duplex, but we knew it was going to be sweet revenge when Karen realized what had happened. Once we closed on the property, Karen had no idea who had purchased it. She went on for days thinking things were business as usual. Then one day I went over to her house and knocked on her door. When she opened it, she looked at me and said, "What the F do you want, B?" With a calm smile, I handed her the landlord's contact information and told her, "Rent's due Friday. You can just hand me the check if that's easier for you." Her face went completely white, and it was honestly the best thing I'd ever seen. I could hardly contain my laughter, but I kept my composure. I then told her, "We're honoring your lease through July, but after that, you need to start making plans to move. We'll be remodeling before the new tenants move in." And that was it. She was left stunned and speechless. Her reign of terror was finally over. Now my wife and I are the proud owners of both sides of the duplex, and Karen's no longer a problem. We didn't even need to lift a finger to get her out. All it took was some patience, a little negotiation, and the perfect opportunity to give her a taste of her own medicine. Karma works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it really does work in your favor. Now that's how you handle a Karen. The slow burn from putting up with her nonsense to handing her the landlord's info like a final boss move? Absolute masterstroke. You didn't even have to yell or scheme. Just legally flip the script and let reality smack her square in the face. Congrats on the duplex. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.